It is now 7:02, and I'm calling to order the regular Board of Education meeting for Indian Prairie School District 204 on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Bernard?
Here.
Ms. Grover? Ms. Fosdick?
Here.
Ms. Deming?
Present.
And Mr. Rising?
Here.
We have a quorum. Ms. Deming, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next regular board meeting will be on August 24th. Michelle, did you get the printout? Oh. All right, we have several board salutes tonight. We'll start with Mr. Rising.
Just as I was practicing my names. Mattia Grads, Shreya Ayagria, and Claire Leung awarded National Merit Scholarships. The board salutes two recent Mattia Valley High School graduates who were awarded the 2026 National Merit Scholarships for leadership in their school and outstanding achievement on the ACT or SAT. To be considered, a student's test scores have to be in the top less than 1% nationwide. Finalists are selected after a review of the student's academic record and community contributions. Shreya Ayagri, who will attend Case Western Reserve University, and Claire Leung, who will attend Michigan State University, are now eligible for annual scholarships that provide between $500 and $2,000 annually for 4 years of undergraduate study. Congratulations, Shreya and Claire.
Ms. Fosdick.
Wabanzi Senior Anushka Sandeep selected for the 4-Star Leadership Program. The board salutes Wabanzi Valley High School senior Anushka Sandeep for being one of 75 students worldwide who were selected to be part of the 4-Star Leadership Program in Oklahoma this summer. 4-Star Leadership teaches leadership skills through speech and writing competitions while giving students the opportunity to meet national leaders. Congratulations, Anushka. And then I have a second one for the Gwendolyn Brook Poetry Contest. The board salutes Kalashaw student Nahira Bupala for being selected as a grade level winner in the 2026 Gwendolyn Brooks Youth Poetry Awards competition. This year, 1,063 poems were submitted for the contest, and Nahira's poem, The Copper Secret, was one of just 26 poems in Illinois to be honored. In September, Nahira will be honored at a banquet in Chicago where the poem will be read. Congrats, Nahira. And I believe she's here today.
If you could come up to have your picture, please.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Bernard.
I got two. 3 Wabanzi students selected as Distinguished Young Women 2027 finalists. The board salutes Wabanzi Valley students Jordan Anas and Avia Pinto and Symphony Taylor for being selected as the Distinguished Young Women Class of 2027 finalists. These 3 Wabanzi Valley seniors were selected after academic and extracurricular review, personal interview, public speaking challenge, physical fitness demonstration, and talent presentation. Wabansie Valley graduate Daphne Toklar, who will attend Cornell University, was the 2026 Distinguished Young Women of Illinois. Congratulations, Jordan, Daphne, Avia, and Symphony. All right. District 204 alums DiBernardo and Wood elected to Illinois Sports Hall of Fame. The board salutes Wabansie Valley High School alum Vanessa DiBernardo and Matea Valley High School grad Zach Wood on their recent election to the Illinois Sports Hall of Fame. DiBernardo, a 2010 Wabansie grad, won 3 state soccer championships before going on to play at the University of Illinois and then the National Women's Soccer League, where she is a midfielder for the Kansas City Current. Wood, a 2012 Matea grad, was a 2-time All-State player for the Valley Co-op lacrosse team. He set state records for goals, assists, and career points, then played at the University of Virginia. Congratulations, Vanessa and Zach.
Ms. Grover.
Deputy Superintendent Dr. Lewis Lee named to State Board of Education Committee. The board salutes District 204 Deputy Superintendent Dr. Lewis Lee, who was selected to serve on the Illinois State Board of Education Consolidated Committee of Practitioners. The Consolidated Committee of Practitioners helps ensure that high-quality services are available for all students, especially those most in need, and advises the State Board on the implementation of programs under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Congratulations, Dr. Lewis Lee. District 204 First LEGO League team finishes second in the international competition. The board salutes 6 District 204 students who earned second place in a recent international First LEGO League competition. The members of Team Timeless were Granger Middle School 8th grade students Giri Varshan Anamali, Jai Varshan Anamali, Adrit Chavali, Aditya Kovuri, Ananya Kovuri, and young elementary 4th grader Siddharth Chavali. The team developed an app that would help archaeologists more quickly identify artifacts. Team Timeless qualified for the finals by beating 510 other teams in Illinois. At the finals, the team finished second place overall and earned the prestigious Champions Finalist Award. Congratulations to Team Timeless.
Ms. Deming.
NEQA student Jeremy Loff competes in obstacle course racing world championships. The board salutes NEQA Valley Junior Jeremy Loff, who represented the United States in the obstacle course racing world championships in Ireland earlier this month. At the world championships, athletes from 70 countries compete in 100-meter, 400-meter, 3-kilometer, and 12-kilometer races on courses that are filled with Ninja Warrior-style obstacles, including wall climbs, high ropes, and overhead ladders. Congratulations, Jeremy.
So let's have one more round of applause for all of these amazing accomplishments. It is now time for public comment, and 60 minutes is allowed. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. When addressing the board, we ask that you respect the confidentiality and safety of our students and school district personnel. We also ask that those addressing the board be cognizant that this is an open meeting and is available to all age groups, and as such, ask that you consider who the audience members are this evening and keep comments age appropriate. Public comment represents the voice and opinion of the speaker. There will be no feedback from the board members during the meeting, but follow-up will be provided by an administrator as appropriate. Although this is not required, it is helpful for the board to know whether the comments and concerns we hear are being raised by residents, so we ask that you state if you live in the district and if you currently have children in our schools. Tonight we have 5 speakers. The first is Shanaz Akubal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm given 3 minutes to speak today, so without wasting any time, I'll start. My name is Shanaz Iqbal. I'm a parent of a middle school special education student who goes in the self-contained RISE program. Today, I'm here not only to advocate for my child, but also for other students with similar needs. My very first concern is high turnover of educators in self-contained classrooms. We all know that the special education students need consistency, trust, reliability, and continuity to progress. Every time a new educator comes, everything starts from square one. A few days ago, I Googled how the change of educator impacts students' learning in self-contained classrooms, and this is what Google responded, in quote, "A new teacher takes months to learn each child's unique triggers, medical needs, and communication styles. This delay slows academic growth and increases behavioral outbursts." Even Google knows this, so why can't our educators understand this simple thing? This is what I'm trying to make some of the educators understand for past 2 years and emphasizing more for the past 3 months. My next concern is students' placement. Students' placement in special education is heavily dependent on data. I agree that numbers help to make somewhat informed decisions, but we forget that data is just one of the tools. We are so blinded by data that we totally miss the students' potential, what they are capable of, provided they are given the opportunity. Their learning curve is rarely linear and steady. It features uneven progress, extended plateau, spikes, and high variability based on teaching methods, environment, and specific cognitive challenges. Therefore, it is unfair to expect a typical learning curve for them in order to move them to the next level. Self-contained students should not be kept trapped continuously for many years in a lower functioning classroom and wait for a miracle to happen that will move them to the next higher level in education placement. We know that the students like to be in their comfort zone and push back initially when they are challenged, and so are the educators, which includes school admins too. Teachers are scared to advocate for their students. Parents are pushed back by school because they are seen as emotional and biased people. Then when some parents who can afford hire professional advocates and attorneys, they are heard. And it does not end there. The school then talks about negotiating the deal. It makes me feel like I'm at a car dealership where we are trying to agree to meet somewhere in the middle. I wonder since when the right to free and public education became negotiable. The school should provide appropriate placement with proper support required and not try to negotiate to cover their lack of resources. I know that special education students do not add any value to the school and district rankings, but they have all the right to receive comparable education as other neurotypical students and a vision to live an independent life to the best of their ability. And this planning does not start from high school or after, but this should start from preschool and in every grade.
Ms. Donahue, the speaker time has ended.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you for listening to
Thank
me.
you.
Thanks.
The next speaker is Michelle Corlew.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Corlew, and I retired from District 204 in 2020 after teaching science for 32 years. In addition to my work in the classroom, I've been a coach, a club sponsor, a mentor for new teachers, a union officer, and most recently a substitute. I'm also a resident and a taxpayer in District 204. Like all of you, I want to see my tax dollars used wisely, and I appreciate the work you as board members do to develop and administer the budget to run our schools and provide our students with the best possible education. It is difficult to balance a budget, and tough decisions have to be made. Tonight, I wanted to address the board regarding the decision to reduce the sub-pay for District 204 retirees by 35% for the upcoming school year, Consent Agenda Item 5F. Like all taxpayers, I want our district to invest in quality systems and materials that will last and provide the best value. The board did this a few years ago when they decided to pay retired 204 teachers a higher differential to substitute in the schools they know so well. I was shocked to receive the email on July 20th announcing the 35% cut in pay for those of us who choose to continue using our skills to work with 204 students as substitute teachers. Such a drastic cut in pay is a slap in the face to the very staff that built District 204 into the top-ranked educational system it is today. Consider the following scenario. A student raises their hand and asks to go see the nurse. You notice their coloring is off and their eyes are vacant. Before you can find another student to accompany them to the nurse, the student passes out and hits their head on a desk as they fall to the floor. Who do you want dealing with this scenario? A substitute who knows who to call, where the nurse's office is, where the first aid supplies are kept, and how to keep the other students calm, who is responsible for calling 911, or a substitute who has just entered the building for the first time. I know how to de-escalate a physical confrontation. I can find copies for a student that's just returned from a week's absence. I can comfort a student who's dealing with the loss of a pet or a family member. And sadly, I have experience helping students deal with the loss of a classmate or a teacher, and I know how to shelter in place for hours at a time. I can take over at a moment's notice when someone is sick, when the baby comes early, and when someone's daughter gets married. When I sub, I've walked in and run a chemistry lab. I've gone over physics assignments. I've delivered a lecture on gene function. I've reviewed for a final exam, and I've helped students prep for AP exams. I'm just one example of what you get when you draw on a deep pool of talented 204 retirees. A cut in the sub rate by 15% could be sold to staff as a necessary belt-tightening measure, but a 35% pay cut is just insulting. Once you alienate the pool of substitutes you've been drawing on for years, they are unlikely to work for you again. Every time you invest in your staff, it pays off in ways
Ms.
you never
Donahue,
expected.
the speaker's time has
and
ended.
can be difficult to track.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mary Dolan.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm here tonight, just like Michelle, to ask you to reconsider the decision to reduce retiree substitute teacher pay by 35%. Retired educators are not just substitute teachers. We are experienced professionals who know this district. We know the curriculum, the instructional practices, the technology, the routines, and the culture of our schools. We can step into a classroom with little to no disruption because we've spent our careers here. Board President Donahue, you've substituted in our schools, so we believe you can appreciate just how challenging it is to walk into someone else's classroom. It takes experience and familiarity to keep learning moving forward, and retirees provide that stability. When a retired District 204 teacher covers a classroom, students continue learning with someone who understands the district's expectations. Teachers can be absent knowing that their students are in capable hands, and administrators have confidence that the instruction will continue rather than just simply being supervised. As a retiree, I also understand the importance of being fiscally responsible. I recognize that every budget decision requires difficult decisions. That's why I have two simple questions. First, what was the total cost of retiree substitute teachers last year? Second, how much does the district expect to save by reducing retiree substitute pay by 35%? I think those numbers matter because they help put this decision into perspective. If the savings are relatively small, is it really worth risking the loss of experienced retirees who choose to stop substituting? Is the financial benefit worth disrupting the continuity of learning that retirees provide for our students? Once retirees leave, replacing that experience will not be easy. New substitutes may be willing to help, but they cannot immediately replace the years of knowledge, the relationships, and understanding of our schools that retired educators bring every single day. This decision is about more than substitute pay. It's about maintaining high-quality instruction, supporting our teachers, and ensuring students experience as little disruption as possible when their classroom teacher is absent. I respectfully ask the board to reconsider this reduction and to weigh the true value that retired educators bring to District 204 against this actual savings this proposal will generate. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The next speaker is Maura Alston.
I don't have a prepared speech, so bear with me. A good teacher can do it off the cuff, so we're going to go for it. First of all, welcome to the new superintendent. We have a familiar colleague, Pete Hannigan, Dr. Pete Hannigan. I actually was an instructional coach to him many years ago when he was in our district, so welcome. I am IPSD loyal for over 40 years, including 3 years of subbing. I want to do a little bit of a lesson with you. You can close your eyes or keep them open, just like in the classroom, but I want you to imagine for a minute that tomorrow you get an email from your boss, or your husband or your wife gets an email from their boss, and in that email you find out you're worth a 35% cut in pay, and in that same email they say, but this does not diminish the value we see in you. I want you to sit with that for a minute. How would you react? How would you feel? What would your feelings be? And I think all of you would be in shock, disappointment, frustrated, and thinking, wait a minute, where did this come from? Also, in my 40 years, I've been here longer than most of you, maybe not, I have taken a pay freeze for fiscal responsibility. I've taken a pay freeze to save colleagues' jobs. I have been through it all in 204, but never have I ever seen a pay cut in staff. Not a sub, not a teacher, not an administrator. And this is the first time you'll be voting in a 35% cut in specialists and expertise. And the next challenge is to you is, how are you going to show you that you value us? Because money is a way in our society that shows you value our expertise and our experience. And
Andrews as an intern for the Neuqua Valley High School Additions and Renovations Project. I was fortunate enough to secure this position at my alma mater through a program that Bullion Andrews has been running for quite some time now. This program involves hiring recent high school graduates as interns before they go off to college, as a way to get them both professional and on-site experience in the construction industry before beginning their studies. That aspect of the program has given me the opportunity to gain a better understanding of the business, trades, and civil side of the industry, which will prove invaluable in my studies and eventual career as a civil engineer. Because of the beneficial impact that this internship has had on me, and that I believe it could therefore have on other students, I firmly believe that the board and district as a whole should greatly consider continuing this partnership with Bullion Andrews. To conclude, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Neuqua Valley for my education, Dr. Fear for taking time out of his day to support me in this opportunity, the various members of the district involved in the project for their time, and Matt Barada, Ben Steele, Tom Weeks, and Christopher Bruins of Bullion Andrews for their time, expertise, patience, and guidance over these last few months. I hope to be back next summer to see the conclusion of the project. Thank you all for your time and attention.
Thank you. We are now moving to our consent agenda and superintendent report. We will start with the superintendent report.
Thank you. Brief report aligned to the 4 areas of our strategic plan. Student development. During the district-led Institute Day, the middle schools will be focused on social emotional learning integration in the Achieve period with the utilization of the Second Step curriculum. So we're glad to be supporting the use of this SEL curriculum and expanding its use across our schools. It's been in our K-5 buildings for a number of years. 5 middle schools are extending their implementation of IMTSS training, with the other 2 onboarding this year in the final cohort for the initial round of IMTSS training. District leaders have been working to strengthen expectations around purposeful technology use with an emphasis on learning purpose before device and protecting opportunities for reading, writing, discussion, and hands-on learning. I almost said real reading, writing, but that's not what it was intended. Invest in staff. We have welcomed 165.7 FTE in new hires this summer. Number includes 93.1 in licensed staff, 63.6 in support staff, and 9.0 in administrators. We're proud to welcome our new class of Indian Prairie educators. The new teacher induction included a shared focus on the inclusive classroom, bringing together equity, special education, multilingual learners to help new teachers respond to the strengths and needs of all of our students. New teachers had the chance to meet district leaders and form relationships with their new colleagues. Teacher induction continued at individual school sites throughout last week. District also hosted our annual Leadership Academy for school leadership teams. This year's presentation was a keynote by Ricky Robertson, author of The Other Teacher. Sorry, just saw a typo. School teams found the presentation motivating and helped them to focus on steps to strengthen school culture. Engaging with the community, this week is full of school orientation and welcome events, especially for students that are new to school. Like the sixth graders, I had a chance to walk with some sixth graders at Still Middle School right across the parking lot here, and also students who are new to the district. In order to focus on new students and to accommodate construction, Waubonsie Valley High School will open on the 17th for new students only, with the rest of the school participating in a day of e-learning. Feedback from the superintendent's equity survey has been reviewed, and follow-up outreach has been made to all of the respondents where requested. The feedback is being considered alongside existing district data and current initiatives as the district continues to listen, learn, and reflect on its equity work. Thank you to Nader Najjar for leading this work on the district's behalf. The community is invited to Wildcat Kickoff and the unveiling of the Commons and Alcove at Neuqua Valley High School. There's a date change. This was going to be August 14th, but it's been moved to September 4th. Is that right, Dr. Howard? Thank you, September 4th. Young Elementary School will be hosting their playground dedication tomorrow at 2:30. I will see you there. And additional ribbon cutting and unveiling events will be coming up later this month, including the new stadium ribbon cutting at Waubonsie Valley High School on the 27th, right before their home opener, their soccer team. Optimizing resources and operations, 6 middle schools are moving into new offices and becoming acclimated to the new secure vestibules, thanks to construction supported by the district's Safer, Stronger 204 campaign. And construction continues on schedule, and all buildings will be ready to host students on August 17th. All bus routes have been assigned and will have full coverage on the first day of school. And finally, the technology team continues its move to the Prairie Lake Court offices. All personnel from Still Middle School have moved out, freeing up 2 new classrooms that I had a chance to see today with the principal, and the process for moving CEC staff will continue through the fall, leading to some additional space here at the CEC as well. Finally, IPSD hosted the kickoff for a data sciences grant in collaboration with Digital Promise and 3 other League of Innovative School Districts, including Iowa City, Iowa, Talladega County Schools, Alabama, and Broward County, Florida. The 4-day convening, which occurred in this room, included 2 days of training led by data science for everyone. Thank you, Chair Donahue.
Thank you. All right, I now need a motion and a second. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask for agenda item F to be pulled from the agenda because I am a substitute teacher sometimes, and I want that one pulled out so we can vote on separately.
I'm going to also request that item H on the agenda be pulled due to my daughter partaking in the services of this company.
So I need a motion for items A through E, G, and I through K. What is it? D through? Okay, D through E, sorry.
I move that the board approve agenda items
D.
D, E, G, and I through K as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Fosdick,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
Ms. Deming,
Aye.
and Ms. Grover.
All right, now I need a motion and a second on consent agenda item F.
I make a motion that the board approve consent agenda F as presented.
A second?
Is there any discussion?
I would just like to ask a couple questions,
Okay.
if possible. I don't know if, I know when we decided this,
Well, we didn't decide any.
well, I know, when this was brought out as a agenda item, there were questions by the board. I think there was feedback from administration that we would look at this, and I think that's even referenced in the memo that we would look at this next year. Is that true, Dr. Price?
Yes, we're going to review substitute rates every year to make sure that we're being that we're competitive with the market and that we're keeping up with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, our retired teachers came out. I mean, I think instead of just passing this, I feel like I need to say something that a lot of those teachers were, I know personally that taught our kids. I think our board has always highly valued our retired teachers, as evidenced by the rate that they've had for the past quite a few years. The experience, dedication, passion for 204, and frankly, there's probably no one that a teacher would want more than a retired teacher to sub for their class. But the reality is that we had 2 employment contracts last year. We had federal funding cuts. We had state reimbursement cuts. Our vendor costs went up significantly. That helped student learning. And the rates that our retired teachers are going to be at are still higher than surrounding districts. We had to make some tough cuts because we're facing a significant budget deficit. I think none of us are happy about this, but yeah. So anyway, I just felt that needed to be said, and I hope we do take a look at this next year.
I'll just add that we did look at it to see how much savings was involved, and it was significant. And we are running, you'll see it at our next board meeting, a $5.6 million deficit in our district. So every penny right now is going to count for us. So with
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
and Ms. Donahue.
abstain, the motion passes. Now I'll ask for a motion for agenda item H.
Make a motion that the Board of Education approve consent agenda item H.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comment? All right, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
Ms. Deming,
Aye.
Ms. Donahue,
Aye.
Ms. Grover, Ms. Fosdick,
Yes.
and Mr. Bernard.
Abstain.
The motion passes. I now need a motion and a second to approve the proposal for enhanced after-school security.
I make a motion that the board approve the proposal for enhanced building security.
Or second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think that this was, and I indicated to Dr. Price, I think this is very much needed, an opportunity to ensure that all of our buildings have, our 3 high school buildings have coverage after school hours, and very, very much needed. So pleased that this recognition was presented to us, because I think it will keep all that are in the buildings after hours safe, and a sense of reassurance.
Any other comments? All right, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Deming,
Aye.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Ms. Grover, Mr. Rising,
Yes.
and Ms. Fosdick.
Yes.
The motion passes. And I now need a motion and a second to approve a resolution to allow the district to enter into a contract for work without competitive bidding when funds are expended in an emergency situation.
Make a motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution allowing district to enter into contract work without competitive bidding when funds are expended in an emergency situation as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
Ms. Fosdick,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Ms. Deming,
Aye.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
and Ms. Grover.
The motion passes. I need a motion and a second to approve a contract with Grove Masonry, IMEG Engineering, and Pepper Construction to make emergency repairs at Welch Elementary School beginning August 11th, 2026, and extending several weeks into the school year.
You really don't have to read that each time.
It's a long one.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approve a contract with Grove Masonry, IMEG Engineering, and Pepper Construction to make emergency repairs at Welch Elementary School beginning August 11th, 2026, and exceeding several weeks into the school year as presented.
Or second?
Second.
Okay, Michelle, any discussion? Okay, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
Ms. Fosdick,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Ms. Demme, and Ms. Grover.
The motion passes. We will now have a presentation from Dr. Lewis Lee, Ms. Janine Wing, Dr. Sarah Mum, and Mr. Matthew Walker regarding optimizing student success aligned attendance system.
Appreciate it. All right, good evening, President Donahue, members of the board, Dr. Price. Tonight we are excited to share a comprehensive overview of the district's aligned attendance systems for the upcoming school year. Joining me tonight is our positive engagement and student support coach, Janine Wing, one of our school counselors from Waubonsie Valley High School, Matt Walker, and then our Director of Research and Assessment, Dr. Sarah Mum. Our work is directly anchored in Board Policy 770, which governs compulsory attendance and is a vital component of Strategic Plan Priority 1, which is the focus on student development. Under our unifying district theme, which is Believe, Belong, and B204, this initiative is built on a simple but powerful premise that we cannot teach students who are not in our classroom. Ensuring consistent student attendance is a shared responsibility, and this blueprint that we lay out tonight is going to outline for us how we are organizing our systems to partner with families to achieve that very mission. So our, let me get this going here. All right, so what's our why? This committee actually focused on three pieces of the why to achieve district-wide alignment. This attendance committee looked first at how we're standardizing unexcused and excused absences when they're logged, when parent reasons are provided. We believe this will help create a single dictionary to eliminate building level inconsistencies. Our second why that this committee focused on is that we are increasing automation practices like the 48-hour auto conversion window, for example, that we believe is going to help save valuable time for our front office clerical and health staff. And then finally, we're going to be scaling up proactive alerts to parents via our 204 Connect communication avenue regarding cumulative absence totals. This is going to ensure that we are partnering with families to help address barriers long before they serve to learning gaps. So it takes a great committee to really get this work achieved. And a lot of that committee is represented tonight in the positions that we have. But this framework is not the product of just one single department. It's the result of months, even years, of rigorous collaborative planning by the committee. We would be remiss if we didn't mention some of the persons that served on that committee in terms of their functions. We included district-level leaders, technology staff, building principals, and crucially, our classified staff. They actually help record the daily attendance themselves. These are people like our health office assistants at the elementary level, attendance secretaries at the middle schools, and then our dean secretaries at the high schools. And also our nurses, very important. By bringing all these voices to the table, we have built, we believe, a cohesive pre-K to 12 aligned system that respects the operational realities of our buildings while maintaining consistent standards district-wide. And in a district of our size, that's not easy to do. So there were several, I would say, key pillars of this work for the attendance committee that we're excited to share with you tonight. And to help guide our discussion, we'll start with the foundation, where the committee examined what does the research say about attendance itself, and also how do we look in terms of ourselves versus local and state. Next, we'll discuss systemic simplification, where we're going to outline how we've simplified and streamlined our internal codes, including the elimination of, yes, the vacation code. I keep wanting to click this. I'm going to have to put this down. We will then cover, sorry about that. We'll then cover data collection and accountability, showing how we're standardizing codes, coding practices across all of our buildings. From there, we're going to explore intervention connections to barriers, where we'll be highlighting our new and exciting digital root cause survey. And then finally, we're going to share how we continue to communicate through multiple avenues of communication through our universal strategy, which is going to focus on proactive family outreach and seasonal newsletters. So how do we look in terms of attendance? Well, what you see up there is a trend line for our district daily attendance rates, first as we compare to the state. Baseline over the last few years. Our current, most recent year, we are at 94.4%. We are well above, and we've consistently outpaced the state of Illinois average by over 2 percentage points year over year. And that's really thanks to the hard work of our entire building staffs. Our daily attendance rate has continued to climb. And we are actually, we can say we are in striking distance, a percentage point of our pre-COVID level of 95.6%. So that's quite a benchmark to get back to. In terms of actual instructional time, we value those instructional minutes daily. And to make the argument and the evidence of what that compounded instructional time lost by level looks like, the attendance team actually delved into their own research, and they looked at the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. And what they found is, for example, if you look at the elementary school level, they're receiving just under 2,000 weekly instructional minutes, and that can account to a daily 30-minute loss. A 30-minute loss will account to just over 7% of instructional time that's lost through the school year. So again, let me say that again, just under 2,000 weekly instructional minutes. If that student is absent daily just for 30 minutes, they are missing just under 8% of instructional time. At the middle and high school, where students are receiving slightly more, just over 2,000 weekly minutes, if they are, again, looking at that same category of 30 minutes, they are just over that 7% mark. So for the committees and taking a look at this, whether a student is arriving late, whether they're leaving early, or missing a portion of a block, these small disruptions can compound into massive systemic learning gaps. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mumm, who's going to start walking us through some other research practices and then take us further into the district-wide alignment.
Thank you. So not only did the committee want to look at our local data, but we also wanted to look at national data. And some of the 3 key points that really stood out to us that we wanted to share with the board and the community were what we see on the slide above us. The first one is that we did find that consistent attendance really does prepare a student 2.5 times more to be college or career ready upon graduation. If they are consistently in attendance, not just in their high school years, but starting at their pre-K and kindergarten year all the way through high school, then they will be more ready when they are exiting their senior year, either to go into their career immediately or into college. And the source for this is Attendance Works. A national data point that we also found is that middle one. And the middle one is a research study that shared with us that it compared students that were chronically absent compared to students that are consistently in attendance in the grades of kindergarten and first grade. and how they were more ready to read by the end of third grade. 64% of students that were consistently in attendance were reading at grade level when they were there consistently learning the lessons and engaging in the literacy lessons, compared to 17% who were chronically absent. Again, kind of taking the data that Dr. Lee was saying and really proving the point that you have to be at and present and engaged to be most prepared, and that early entrance and making sure that we're proactive with our attendance reminders and our push that those early years really do matter for our foundational literacy acquisition. And then that compounding with the data that Dr. Lee just shared with us about the compounding loss of time. It sometimes doesn't feel like 30 minutes here or there makes a difference, but if your 30 minutes compounds over time, that could add up to 5,100 minutes total loss of instructional time, and that is a considerable amount of learning loss for a student to try to make up that amount of time from peer-to-peer learning, instructor to student learning. That's a huge barrier for a student coming in and out of the classroom. After we looked at data, we really wanted to focus on 3 key things in our actions this school year to make sure that we were ready to go into the fall of 2026. The first one was to shift and align our language at Indian Prairie with the state language. The State Board of Education really made a big shift to push their language to consistent attendance rate away from a negative chronic absenteeism, and really put a positive shift on celebrating the attendance of students that are present and consistently here. So we wanted to make sure that our language and attendance really pushed on that proactiveness of being present and in attendance as well, and making sure that we are reinforcing the positive benefits of being in attendance. The second one was really the predictor of success and what our practice metrics were collecting, and making sure that we had clean data so that we are looking at positive data to figure out the trends of that consistent attendance and where we need to put some student benefits and responses in the trends that we are seeing a barrier for attendance, which leads to our IMTSS integration. Finding that data trend that leads to standardized attendance intervention for students as well. And so those 3 areas are kind of the framework that our committee started our practices under. Our committee did mirror the IMTSS structure by having 3 tiers within the committee as well. Our first tier did probably the bulk of the work this year, while all of the committee's structures met. We really wanted to focus on clarity in that tier 1, which was school-wide culture, universal newsletters, really front-loading proactive benefits of attendance for all of our community and all of our students, and making sure we had clarity and consistency in all of our codes and practices as part of that tier 1 universal understanding among our staff. Our tier 2 committee really will focus on targeting standardized automated parent alerts that are customized to the parent with their actual student data and to the student in 6th through 12th grade, sharing what the actual data of attendance is at specific times as a reminder and alert for attendance needs. And then also trying to find what barriers are impacting attendance. And then tier 3 is really looking at the intensive targeted need that a student or family has and how we can support them with internal resources and our external partnerships as well. All 3 of the attendance tiers will continue to meet throughout this school year as well to review the work, continue the work, and expand the work. A few of the things that we have done this year and that will continue throughout the next school year. The first one is to really look at the changing patterns of our disciplinary alerts. We wanted to make sure that we were moving away from the punitive alert of being absent or truant to that proactive alert. And that day 5, letting parents and students know of an alert of your attendances are adding up, and just as a more proactive before we get to that day 9 kind of threshold, kind of that proactive warning system and the benefits, again, of being in attendance and how the days are adding up. And so changing the pattern and shifting and making sure that we're having consistent reporting of that attendance as well. We also wanted to make sure that we were focusing on key pre-proactive conversations with our community and our students around key milestones like weather changes, moving into rainy season, probably today would have been a good one, or winter weather for sure, and then seasonal changes or milestone changes such as homecoming or prom, and really proactively sharing that attendance and learning are still happening and very important, and how those days are still very important attendance days. And during those times, we have consistent communication already drafted that will be going out in front of all of those milestones and shifts within the school year to really get that message out. And then we wanted to make sure that we were having data-driven decision makings, both for our families and our leaders, that is automated so that we can have those communications to families so that families will know as the thresholds are coming and how many days have been absences, and then if an absence isn't reported, which we'll talk about in a minute, the time frame to report the actual reason for that absence as well. So a couple things that we really focused on, and one of them probably took our most time as the committee, was that early childhood through senior year alignment. We wanted to make sure that all of our families experience the same kind of coding system, definitions for our codings, and expectations within attendance, whether you were in elementary, early childhood, middle school, or high school, and making sure that we understood all of those different absences and absence codes within our staff and our coding structures as well as our families. And so we spent a considerable amount of time getting feedback from all of our stakeholders of what did a code mean, what could it be characterized as, and when did we use that code. We know that there was some slight variations throughout coding, and so when we looked at that data, it meant different things for different buildings and grade spans, and we wanted to make sure that we had consistency moving into the new school year. Once we identified those codes and really solidified them for the next school year, we wanted to go on and develop that next intervention system. How can we create a way to enhance that student attendance, encourage students to be present, and communicate how to find out what the barriers are? And that's the root cause survey that we will talk about here in just a second. And then, as Dr. Lee just talked about a second ago, we really wanted to minimize the calendar disruptions and any family travel on student attendance days. And so the removal of that vacation code was one of our first steps, and to really encourage that vacation happen during breaks, holiday breaks, spring break, our long weekends, and not during school attendance days. And so not having that vacation as an option that families can select as a reason for an absence. And so overall, our work came down to a couple of different key actions. The first one was eliminating some of the disjointed understandings of our different codes internally and externally, and coming up with that one consistent district-wide dictionary of codes. So any code that we have will be used and coded the exact same way no matter what school you will be in out of the 33 buildings. We really are focusing on the use of the code, the timing of the code, and when we pull the data for that code, we can all look at that with the exact same definition and understanding, so we can see the trends within the code, within the grade span, and from a district perspective. The second thing we did then is we really focused on the ability to track partial versus full day attendance. And we honed in on when is an attendance counted, at what period of time, and how do we do that within the different various schedules that we have across our schools. Our next task as a committee was to focus on the transparency and share those codes with our families by cleaning up our parent view, which we will show you here in just a minute, and focusing on when does an excused absence happen and what is the baseline for when that excused absence turns to an unexcused absence. and having that threshold of the 9 days leading to, of excused absences will turn to an unexcused absence at some point. And then the last thing is really empowering our leadership teams, whether it be staff teams looking at the data, administrative teams, or district office teams looking at the data with clarity in order to determine what types of interventions or support systems should be put in place for students. So what will the parent interface look like with all of this work in kind of that coding cleanup, the definition cleanup? We really have determined a parent view, and we're making a video that will also be sent out to parents so that they can see kind of the live interaction of that parent view app, which we would encourage all parents to go to the app and log that absence. It might be a little bit easier sometimes than calling in. It will have a clear drop down that will have more detailed definitions. In that definition, it will explicitly say, here's what this definition or this code means. In some cases, it will give examples, and it can also have a drop down that you can type in a little bit of your rationale or reasoning why you selected that. The nice part about it too is it gives you the capability to upload a note. If you were at a doctor's office or you had an appointment and you have your doctor's letter right there, you can snap a picture of it on your phone and it can be uploaded right away. You don't have to worry about how do I get it to the school. The app can take it right away and it's there as documentation. We'll go through the parent codes in just a second. It will have explicit on-screen instructions too of what to select, how to use the drop-down, how to log on, and how to report for parents. And then it will have that direct upload for any documentation as well, so it's all in one spot on Parent View. These are the final parent codes that families can select. The first one is family related. This would be selected for emergencies that come up, really unplanned instances where families do have something that they do have to be absent from school. Again, we are really discouraging that family travel is not family related if it can be controlled, but we do know if you do have to attend a funeral or a family event that is out of your control, family related would be selected. Illness, if a student is at home with the flu but you haven't seen the doctor or an illness, that would be selected. Professional care, if you've gone to the dentist or you have a doctor's note, or if you have some kind of an appointment, again, you can select professional care, and that's the time where you can just take that picture of your doctor's note and you can upload it at that time. Mental health day, you do by school code have 5 mental health days that you can select. Any student can use those. We will always be following up with the students as that is selected. Religious observance has been modified a little bit by definition, not just for the holiday, but as an observance. And then college visit will be available for our high school students. It will not be viewed on our K-8 drop-down, just for our high school. As we mentioned a couple times, we are taking a very firm stance of vacation. That is not available on our parent view because we are really wanting our students present and available for learning. And we have so many few precious days of learning that we did decide intentionally to take the vacation code and remove it from one of our parent options this year. And we really hope by sending out when our vacations, when our spring break is, when our holiday break is, that parents will really choose to plan that vacation built in during our breaks. So a little bit of one big last task that we did was we did make a consistent absent of, or a consistent code that focused on an unverified absent, which means we know the student isn't there, but we have not gotten a call from the parent, they have not used Parent View, and we're unsure why the student is absent. It will be marked ABS or unverified absent, and it will be marked that way for 48 hours. 1 hour after the student is absent, an automated phone call and text will be sent to the family asking, the student is absent, can you call in or use parent view to select the option? Once an option is selected, then it will change to the selected option. That informs the family proactively that your student is not in school. We're looking for a verified reason. Please let us know that reason. It will remain unverified for that 48 hours. If no contact is made within 48 hours, it will shift to truant after that 48-hour mark. That will tell us, that just shares a little bit more about that conversion time frame of 48 hours. Within that 48 hours, we also have the office staff working with the families to try to verify that absence as well. And it does give our office staff that reminder of families to call and try to verify that absence. All of this being said is we've really tried to clarify the codes both internally and externally so that we can have automated systems that proactively share with our parents and our students. We are working on also sending the automated message to our 6th through 12th grade students, so students can also be aware that someone is watching my attendance and they are notifying my family as well. We will be using 204 Connect also to send proactive newsletters around those big milestones and seasonal changes to really promote the positivity of our attendance, and then really using that early absence warning system to make sure that we can continue to communicate those unverified absences. Ultimately, what we're really looking for is the ability to clearly and consistently track that cumulative attendance so we can be very clear who's been absent at the 5-day mark and the 9-day mark so that we can do some proactive and support systems, which Janine is going to go into. And here's this.
Hello, I'm Janine Wange. I'm actually, I'm proud to say I'm a parent in the district of 2 children and have worked in the district my entire career, so I'm a long-time employee and really proud to say so. Currently, I serve as a positive engagement and student support coach, which is really focused on helping with our systems and our multi-tiered systems of support and trying to enhance those systems to work better for our students and our families and our staff. So I'm going to bring you through some of the logistics of the decisions that we've made around attendance. So on the current slide that's up in front of us, you'll see that there are 2 points in time when an automated message will be sent to parents regarding the number of days that their child has missed. So as Sarah had said earlier, on day 5 and on day 9 of accumulated full day absences, those notifications are triggered automatically, and that happens the day after the student accumulates the total number of absences. So specifically with the 5-day parent notification, sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Consistent with our supportive philosophy, this 5-day parent notification check-in is really designed just to be a supportive, informational, and non-disciplinary communication method. So as a district parent myself, I know that I rarely look at Parent View to see how many days my children have missed. And I know that if it's not sent to you, often it gets lost in that app. So I think that this notification is really just designed to help families understand how many days their child has missed so far. It also is meant to remind them of the academic connection to attendance, and it ensures that they're aware of our district's attendance guidelines. The 9-day parent notification is a little bit different. It's a little more urgent in nature. This alert notifies families that their student has accumulated 9 full-day absences. It provides a clear and transparent warning that starting on day 10, any further absences without an official medical or legal documentation will be considered unexcused. When this notification is sent, it automatically embeds a digital link to the survey, the root cause survey that Dr. Mom had talked about earlier. And I'll go more in depth about that survey in a minute. But in short, the purpose of the survey is to create a consistent point in time at 9 days absent in which our schools begin to partner with families in an effort to support their child's attendance. Okay. So this is what you're looking at right now is a screenshot of the notification template that will be sent to parents via email. As Dr. Mum said, it will also be sent via text and phone call. but this is the email version, a little bit longer and more detailed. So as mentioned previously, it clearly identifies the number of absences, defines district expectations, while also conveying a supportive tone. In order to reach parents in a way that meets their communication needs, the notifications will be sent in multiple ways, including text messages as well. Okay. Oh, skip one. Okay. When a student accumulates 9 days, our goal is to understand why they are missing school. This is where our root cause survey comes in. So rather than making assumptions about why a student has missed school, this tool helps our school teams identify underlying household barriers, such as chronic transportation issues, childcare gaps, or student mental health concerns. We have automated the workflow as much as possible to ensure that every family that has reached this threshold has the opportunity to complete the survey, and that the results are sent to appropriate staff at their school. Specifically, when a root cause survey is submitted, a direct notification is sent to a designated building level point person, whether that is a counselor, principal, or social worker, or someone else, whoever that is at their building. Depends on the particular building and the grade levels that they serve. This response loop ensures that staff receive information they need to intervene. The digital format can also provide a less intimidating medium for families than picking up the phone and making that phone call to ask for help. Okay, so the current slide includes several questions that are included in the root cause survey. So the opening language isn't included here, but I assure you that the committee was very careful to ensure that it reads as a non-judgmental invitation to collaborate. It explicitly states, by working together to identify these underlying factors, we can develop meaningful supports and solutions that help students feel successful, connected, and ready to learn. By answering just a few questions, parents are able to quickly share their child's strengths, the factors impacting attendance, and what supports could help their student attend school successfully. Okay. So as was referenced earlier, we are developing newsletters that will be sent out quarterly. So the reason for this is to maintain proactive and continuous engagement around attendance. Our committee will design and distribute quarterly newsletters to families. We plan to distribute newsletters in multiple ways, such as principal newsletters and the district newsletter. The goal of this communication is to provide resources, set clear district expectations, and educate families on topics such as, when is my child too sick to come to school? Okay. So now I'll turn it over to Matt Walker, who's a counselor at Waubonsee Valley High School, and he'll discuss the district's training and rollout plans.
All right, so I get the fun part. How does everybody find out? So this in front of us is kind of the timeline of the phases of implementation and just educating our educators across the district and all stakeholders of what changes have been made, and what information they need to know. So first we started with phase one, getting our administrative teams onboarded, providing them information in July so that they were ready to inform their staff in a few days now, tomorrow, yeah. Two, getting the classified support staff. I kind of view them our frontline workers, so looking at our nurses, our attendance secretaries, dean's assistants, the people that really do the daily granular work, up to speed by offering them tech talks, which have already taken place, and then we've also offered some in-person or some virtual trainings, as well, just to give them the updates on the coding to make sure that they are ready to go when students arrive next week. And then finally, starting tomorrow, our certified staff will get this information from their administrative teams with the updates on the coding and the plans moving forward with that tier one work that we've spent a lot of time on this summer. From a committee standpoint, we are kind of on the back end going to be looking at and making sure that there is accountability and integrity with the work that we did so that it doesn't get lost, right? We want to make sure that we put in this time, let's keep tabs on it and see how we can continue to monitor as we move forward. So twice a year, we're going to do a technical review, really looking at the code data, seeing are we implementing the codes consistently across the district, which was our goal, right? We wanted to clean up the language so that this is being implemented. Families knew, all of our staff knew and understood what the plan was. So we will be taking a look at that. We will also do a mid-year diagnostic poll on the root cause survey, and this is again to kind of look at trends from the root cause survey for reasons of possibly missing, timing of absences as well, and then additionally seeing, are there gaps in supports that we can talk through and see if we can find a way to support these families in our community. And then lastly, we're also going to look at the engagement of our communication. We spend a lot of time talking about how do we get this information out? What is the best source and platform? And it's hard. We get a lot of communication every day, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. So we're going to look at, is the community reading? Are they listening? Are they paying attention to the messages that we're sending out? So that if not, do we need to try another channel to make sure that we're reaching them, because they are the audience that we are serving at the end of the day. So what's right in front of us? The vacation guide was already released in July as step 1. Coming up soon here, we will actually be doing the work, taking attendance, and implementing the changes. So using the new codes, getting teachers onboarded, and making sure that they know what the updates are and use the system correctly and efficiently. In September, we also have our first newsletter that will be going out that Janine had mentioned, with the topic of, why are we talking about attendance? Why does it matter? And then in mid-September, our large committee at the district level, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 groups will all come back together, reviewing that initial data to start to look at it, but then also discuss, how do we continue to move forward with the work? It doesn't just end here. We have more work to be done to make sure that we're doing it with fidelity and paying attention to this topic that is extremely important to all of us.
All right, so, just to close us out before we get to questions, hopefully you've heard overall this. I think the core of this was making sure not just that we're consistent across the district, but that we're also in an equitable framework, making sure all our families are utilizing the tools in a proactive way, because as I said at the beginning, we can't educate students if they're not in our buildings, and so we just want to be very proactive in doing everything we can as a school system to ensure students are there daily, and if they're not, supporting families through challenges to make sure that we can get them here as consistent as possible. With that, we invite questions and comments regarding all of this work.
All right, thank you. Ms. Grover?
You would start with me. Thank you for this presentation. I love the fact, because absenteeism is such an important, being present is so important, as you had mentioned. So I liked how you kind of sprinkle the message, and you're trying different platforms to convey the message to parents. Typically what I've seen is when it comes to high school, the students themselves don't want to miss any classes, because high schools, you miss one class and it's very difficult to catch up. So it's typically elementary and middle school, and that's where the parents make the decision. So have you thought about, and perhaps you have, schools starting with the teachers, every teacher has the parents, kind of a captive audience of the teachers kind of supporting, telling them how important it is and relaying the message that you have been relaying here.
We definitely have thought about some of the talking points to give teachers that could be embedded into some of their back to school information. Some of it will come out in this September newsletter. And then we've encouraged through our administrative team to have staff also use some of those key data points in back to school, when they're sharing, meet the teacher, even whatever teachers use to communicate, they can use some of those key pieces as well. So we're hoping we've compiled some of the different facts, those 3 facts that we shared tonight, but then also some data facts that we want to give out to staff and encourage them to use at any point in time that they do have kind of that captive audience in whatever format that they feel is the best fit for them.
Right. Yeah. The other question I have is for a mental health day, because you can select mental health day. Sometimes a parent does not want to select that, although that might be. Is this under like HIPAA concerns? It's just kept within for the school. It's not then given to anybody else. Like no one else knows that they're taking a mental health day, correct? Like it's not going to be in their personal file. Like say they apply to a job or a college or something?
Go.
So the mental health day is just a code internally
Okay.
that we use partially to provide support. So as a counselor, if I see that a student has taken a mental health day, I am responsible for doing a follow-up or collaborating with my team to say, hey, has anybody heard from this family? Do we know what was happening? They have 5 that they're allotted per the state. So we pay pretty close attention to those to make sure that it's informative and supportive at the end of the day. But it's just it's a back-end code that we see. It's not anything that gets distributed outside of there.
Okay, great. And then one more question I had on slide 23. I was just wondering, there's a question there, how concerned are you about your students' attendance? And I just wanted to know the thought process behind that question.
To be honest, none of us were on the team. We had different work groups working on all of these, and I think they did a really great job with the questions they came up with. But in my opinion, the reason is because sometimes when students hit 9 days of missed school, it's completely vacation. So a parent might fill this out and then say no, because they come to school all the time. It was just this one time we went, or they could have had pneumonia and they were out for that much time, you know. So it's not really an attendance concern that needs an accommodation or an intervention. It's really just we had a circumstance at this point. So it's their way to kind of say, I am concerned and I might want some help, or we're good. This was just a strange circumstance.
Okay, I understand what you were saying then, because when I read it, I was saying, as a parent, I was thinking, why would they ask me if I'm concerned? I would be concerned as a parent. Like, of course I'm concerned of my kid. And so with you explaining it that way, I understand what you're saying, but I read it differently.
Yes, yeah. I do think too, there's some research when we looked at samples of root cause surveys leading up to some of these questions. There are, and I think this was one of them, that there are some questions that lead to, there's sometimes a difference of philosophies from the parent view to the student view. And some of the questions get to the point of, does the parent harbor some school opposition that maybe the student doesn't? And so some of the questions, and I believe this is actually one that we looked at in some of the surveys across, it gets to asking the parent, like, do you have some possible negative barriers yourself about school or perceptions about school that, you know, school isn't needed until you get to middle school, or school isn't needed until you get to high school. And so it tries to get a little bit at a parent perception as well.
How does this help you with your data collection?
With the root cause survey, it will help us to see a little bit of the barriers or perceptions or next step conversations or next step interventions. In some cases, we looked at the goal of the root cause is to identify, is this a resource issue? Is it that we just need to find a resource for the student or family? Or is this a kind of perception barrier or a mental barrier that we need to counsel through the family, the student, or the parent? Or is it just a philosophy of value and importance? And we need to find a way to re-engage that importance of education, either for the student, parent, or family.
I have to say,
it helps us decide what resource to go for a support resource or intervention.
and I think that's what I love about this presentation. It's full circle. Like, you start with prevention, you have your strategies, and then you find out if there is a concern, what the concern is, and you have the resources. So, thank you.
All right, Ms. Fosdick.
All right. I have to admit, as a parent in the district, got a little nervous when I first read through the presentation. I do appreciate that we are cracking down a little bit, it sounds like. At least that's my perception. I do really, really appreciate, especially for the older students, the fact that they will get a reminder themselves. Because, at least in my limited experience, parents are often hyper aware of how often their students are missing, and the students may or may not be concerned, depending what the cause of the absence is. So that direct reminder to the students, I think, can be really helpful. The other thing that I hope is still remaining in student view is the ability for students to look at their calendar and see what percentage of their absence fell in what class time, which period time. That is something I reviewed with my students at the end of last year. And something I was able to take into account if I needed to make them a medical appointment. You know, I see you've missed most of second and third period. If I've had to pull you for something, let's not do that this time. Let's try and do it in another time to balance that a little bit. So I hope that that will remain going forward. But I think this additional information directly to parents, and not just the letter that people get in the mail and say, I got the 10-day letter, and then nothing comes of it. It seems like a much more directed intervention. So thank you for doing that collection and putting this together. I am going to ask the question that only because it begs to be asked with this presentation, in case there are parents watching or when they're presented with this information. What will be the consequences beyond 9 days? And I ask that only because I know there are different school systems nearby that have, you know, X amount of credit after this time or X amount of days. Is it a cut and dried answer? Is it a family specific answer, et cetera? So if you could just give us a little insight about that, that would be really helpful.
Matt, do you want to talk about the high school level?
For sure.
Yeah.
So we talked about this a lot, especially with elementary. This is very different, and then middle is very different versus high school. So at the high school level, for us, an unexcused absent, which previously was a truant code, means that you are not allowed to turn in that work for that day, right? You're not allowed to make up that work because it was a mysterious. It's not mysterious, but it was a mysterious absence. We don't know where you were. We don't know the rationale behind it. And with what we have in place right now, the 9-day is really that heads up of, hey, if we, up until after this point, now we need a lot of communication from you all so that we make sure you are eligible to get that credit. You are eligible to turn in that work. We don't want to be punitive in what we're doing, but at the same time, finding a way to get kids in the seat and value that education is something that we all want. And that accountability is kind of what comes from there of after that 9 days, if we don't have that documentation, and that's why the 48-hour window is available as well, right, to give them the opportunity to collect the documentations, call in and clean up the language. I run an attendance group in our building. I work very closely with our attendance secretary, and it's a grind. I mean, it's busy, just trying to get the information, and we want to help kids out, but we also need to know the story to find out how do we help you, you know, what can we do. So you know, the 9 days, that heads up of, hey, at this point, now moving forward, this would potentially be the consequence. And then at an elementary level, the narrative's just a little bit different, right? That missed time, you don't see it right away, but then when you get to high school, there's an academic gap somewhere that happened long ago, and now we've just identified it and tried to fill it. So the dialogue's a little bit different depending on level, but at the end of the day, we want them to be here, so we just want that communication.
Absolutely, thank you. I should have couched that question better as what are the consequences of truancy beyond loss of instructional time, potential learning gaps, loss of feeling part of the community, loss of friendships and interaction, all those other things. But I thought I would just ask the straightforward one. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Rising.
So I guess my first question is, and I'm sorry if you don't know this, and please let me know if you don't. And maybe Louis, this is you. Can we identify which level we're still struggling the most with absenteeism, if it's our elementary, our middle, or high? I think it's our elementary still, isn't it?
Well, first, to answer your question, I think I'll just go back to
Can you use the mic so they can hear you?
Thanks, sorry, I appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Price. First, I'll just restate, overall, our district, students are here, we're almost back at our pre-COVID level of above 95%. So we know the far majority of our students are here, they're ready for instruction, and so it's definitely a data point to celebrate. That being said, we want to continue to strive for excellence. Our data matches national trends that show that your attendance gaps are the largest at elementary level. They start to decrease at the middle. If you look at high school, you would start freshman year very small, and then they gradually, there's this thing called senioritis that sometimes starts to kick in a little bit. But definitely, I think our district is no different than national trend data to show that your elementary level continues to just be, whatever that exact data point of highest. I don't know if Dr. Mom has the exact percentage that we have, but yeah, our elementary is where we're similar to other districts nationwide.
Thanks, Dr. Lee. You didn't have to polish that all up for me. You could have just said elementary school. The second question, and this can be a short answer, where did we get the guidance on this? Like, where did this guidance come from?
We got some of the guidance came from the State Board of Education, and they're changing. The State Board of Education has come out with an attendance committee a year ago of really wanting a proactive change. And so we took a lot of information from them. And then we also took it from the DuPage ROE and the attendance works research on kind of their national data points of it.
So back to Dr. Lee's point. Listen, we are doing extremely well. And this is going to get us over that hump, I have no doubt, by next year. With that being said, this is where it gets a little rough for me. I couldn't tell if this presentation was a coding tracking survey tool or if it was actually focusing on absenteeism, because there was a lot of that going on. And, slide 3, I'll start there. You talked about direct communication. I'm assuming when you said direct communication on slide 3, you meant that 5-day, 9-day letter is what you meant by direct communication. Okay. So to that slide 20, the 5-day, 9-day. I hope this works. But the dozens of articles I've read on absenteeism, there's not a really good response back that you get from root cause surveys. You have much better luck when a trusted voice from a school reaches out and asks what the problem is, because people won't usually share that. Just food for thought, and something maybe at the elementary level that we maybe look at, or what's triggering a tier 3. To that point, slide 10, the tiered systems. What actually, because what I'm seeing here, in tier 1 and tier 2, this is all automated still. The personal touch doesn't come in, it doesn't look like till tier 3. What triggers a tier 3 personal reach out? Do we know that yet? Have we standardized that? Have we figured that out, how that's going to look from the elementary, middle, and high school? Could you just talk about that briefly?
I think one of the things too, even with the root cause survey, one of the changes that we have even made in feedback as we introduce this to our staff this summer is, to your exact point, yes, it will still be sent in that automation message, but we also will have the printed version of the root cause survey that when I see that parent in my office, or I'm meeting with them for a different reason, or I see them out in the drop-off line, I can have that personal touch conversation, and I can have that with me so that I can have a one-on-one conversation with them. And so we don't want it just to be only filled out through automated through automated processes. We do also feel that there's going to need to be that personal conversation or that phone call conversation, and over the phone as we're talking with the parent of, hey, what's going on? I might be asking some of those questions on that survey because they, A, have not filled it out, or B, it's just more personal touch that is needed. And so although many of the slides say it's sent at that time, we know it's also going to be used in that more one-on-one personal conversation manner as well.
Okay. Yeah, and, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So your question was kind of what differentiates tier 2, tier 3.
I'm more curious about what is going to trigger the individual reach out.
Sure.
Because it seems like everything else is automated to that point.
Sure. So the coding is important. Multiple mental health days will trigger a individual reach out as a part of our practice at the high school level. I'm going to speak from the high school perspective.
Yep.
I don't want to speak
totally.
for everybody.
Yep.
At the high school level, we'll do that personal reach out. It's a phone call, it's an email, any way that we can get a hold. I have a lot of success with the text message feature through 204 Connect, and it initiates that follow-up. So that's one piece of it. I mean, it could be a number of things. I work very closely with our attendance secretary, and I mean, we all do in different ways at the building, but multiple illnesses, not getting contact from a family, not hearing from anybody. It could be an extended illness that they're still trying to sort out, and we need to get creative with how we support that family so we're not being punitive to that student. I've had students in the past that they're spending weeks waiting for a doctor's appointment and they're ill, and I'm not trying to punish you because you have to be out. That's a little bit more tier 3, trying to find out how do we have support teams in place to be supportive. And then tier 2 wise, you know, I think that happens naturally in conversation. Our systems that we have in place, we review attendance data and we review academic data like grades bi-weekly with our house teams. And that puts us in a place to look at, are there new students that are popping up? Have we addressed this child yet? Are there things put in place? I know for myself, I run our DF list every week and I send it to our house teams. So the attendance piece of that is always a point in conversation that we try to keep tabs on so that it doesn't take that non-personal touch. After we get to 9 days, we are actively engaging before then.
Okay.
And if I can add to that, I think that the reason we wanted to have a threshold like 9 days where something is sent out isn't because that's going to be the only touch point with families, but really just to know that we're intervening early on. We're trying to partner early on because there are points in time, and I was mental health coordinator at Mattia before moving into this position, and there are kids who are going to be tier 3, and they need a lot of support. And so the people who work in buildings like Matt are doing that, but we also know that there are those who are coming up, and sometimes because we are so focused on those that need a lot, you miss the ones who are coming up and they're just at that 9 days. And so it's a means to hopefully help intervene a little earlier, or at least identify who those students are a little earlier than you might normally, just by looking at, working with your house teams and working with students.
And please don't misunderstand. Like I said, I'm confident. I have the trust in all of you. I'm glad we have a system and a process in place. The research I've read, the dozens of districts I talked on about absenteeism, 9 days is too late. You say that's early. I think of that as late. And then the other thing at the elementary level, 80% success rate, and sorry, Katie, when a teacher reaches out directly to a family, that increases the student's attendance by like 80%. It's not even, it's a no-brainer. The data shows that over and over again. So I asked those questions about root cause, about what triggers tier 3. I appreciate we're doing it with fidelity across the district, but we also might want to think about it differently if we're not getting that root cause data, if we're not having success with the tier 3, if we're not having success at the elementary, and I have every confidence that you guys will do that. So thank you. That's all I had.
Can I add one more thing to that that's important, I think, to know, is that really, because we had so much work to do around attendance, we focused mostly on tier 1 and just into tier 2. So one of our big goals for this year is to really, we've partnered with the ROE and partnered with other clinical partners in the community to refine our practices at the upper tiers. And so that is something that's going to be coming, but we needed to set that foundation first.
Thanks.
Mr. Bernard.
We'll say first and foremost, thank you for your work, and thank you for answering all questions and diving into absenteeism, because it is a major issue in our school system. I appreciate starting with the positive, but I am a little bit concerned with some limitations, and being the teacher in me, I'm kind of looking at this from a parent perspective as well. I'm looking at the getting rid of the vacation label. I see that as a good thing, right? I think all of us should agree that you should be taking your vacations not during school time. You're not missing instructional time, 100% about that. My only thing is, vacation label is removed. What's from stopping a parent or anybody else from just marking it family-related or mental health day, just to sub that for vacation?
Absolutely nothing. I think that's to answer it unpolished. And I think, again, our expectation is that students are in school and that they are proactively planning those vacations during break. At the end of the day, parents make that decision, especially at the younger levels, about getting their children here to school. We're going to focus everything we can to make sure that our messaging is consistent, and that was an improvement that in our area by acknowledging, by putting a code there, we were actually acknowledging that we think vacation's okay. We don't, and so we hope that this will continue to support that.
Got it. And my second question is, if a parent wants a truant removed after 48 hours, is the district going to be firm on that, or is there wiggle room to get that truant off the record if it's like 72 hours?
I think there's, in terms of that 48-hour window that we're looking at, I think they're always going to look at each individual student case individually. That's whether it's just attendance, any behavior decisions. I think the unique circumstances of every child is always going to be important.
And I'm looking at this third question from more of a high school lens, so I'm definitely not talking about elementary school for this, just because there are so many different circumstances for younger kids. But after kind of all these positive resources are exhausted, besides not allowing the student to make up the work, is there any other plan to, especially with the older kids, right? You need to get here. We've tried the positive, but it's time, right? You're going to be an adult soon. You need to get to school. Is there any other plans besides removing, right, just not letting them make it up?
I, at Waubonsie, started an attendance group. I would categorize it as Tier 2, just based on the quantity of students that we had. But I started an attendance group, and the whole goal of it was connection, honestly. We have curriculum that we're using that is also from the ROE, and I've gone through training to support that. But at the end of the day, I think most of us would agree that connection gets these kids to school, knowing that somebody is waiting for them, knowing that somebody cares about them. So the big picture, right, put systems in place to try and do the catch-all, be more informative, do what we can. And I think that that's where that personal touch comes in as well, right? Finding ways to get kids to identify who you trust in this building, right? Who can you go talk to? Find ways to get creative with that. And any attempt we make is a good attempt, right? Because it's better than not sitting on our hands and kind of looking at it of, well, what do we do now? So it's tough. It's a hill to climb for sure. And especially with, the problem being what it is, I wish we could see all the Tier 2 kids, but there's a lot. So we gotta find those kids that need that special touch, that extra hand, and reach out to them and get them that support so that they feel connected to, give me a reason to show up here, right? And why do I need to be there?
And going off of that, if a student is absent, or truant will say 1 through 8, looking at the high school level, are they still given a 0, not allowed to turn their work in, or does that kick in at the 9? I just want to make sure I understand.
So current practice up until day 9, it is you have 9 absences to use as needed. Coding is really irrelevant. You are allowed to make up that work up until that point. The notifications are to give that heads up of, again, at 9 days. Now moving forward, we need documentation or communication so that we can continue to support you to be able to turn in that work.
All right. I think that is it. Yeah, overall, I'd say I think we're on the same page as a teacher myself. I think the number one thing is that positive connection and, making that email or sending that email or giving that phone call home. However, again, I am concerned about the kind of, you can be truant in 8 days and you can just make something up. That doesn't really seem like, the best way to go about it. But again, overall, I think we're pretty much in line. I appreciate the positivity, and thank you.
Ms. Deming.
I love the idea that we're moving away from the the negative connotation of absenteeism into the consistent attendance. I love that. So I look forward to us beginning to use that terminology over and over and over again. Slides 7 and 8 for me were really important to help to see that compounded impact when you think that 30 minutes, that's not a big amount of time, and to see that compound, on an annual, what that looks like, and being able to share this, it really does make a difference. I remember, I don't know if this is still such an issue, but I do know that there have been districts, and I think when we as we return from COVID, there were some challenges, I know, sometimes as far as the transportation, and sometimes older children needed to help the younger children, ensuring that they're to school, and so helping all of us, I'll just say, helping everyone to understand the impact that it can be very, very valid reasons. So I like the thought process. How can we support you? Further down on one of the, as we go to near the end of the slides, how can we support you? And I know we asked that the particular question of, do you have some concerns? And most of us, when I think about it, many families may not, but on that left-hand side, what supports can we maybe provide, and trying to do it in a manner which is not punitive, not judgmental, hopefully can help families think of some of those particular reasons to say, okay, maybe there's a little bit of trust here, maybe I can have that conversation, because some of the things that some families think of that can be concerns for others, people have different things that they're challenged with. So I appreciate that. Let's see. Love the code alignment, trying to ensure that equitableness is across all of our schools. I do like the fact that, and you mentioned this, it's really important for our families to recognize and to remind us the importance the importance of having that consistent attendance from an elementary to middle school. It doesn't just impact us once we get to high school. And I think many of us think that it's like, oh, okay, freshman year is okay, sophomore year is okay, now junior year, this is when it's really important. And I know we've kind of gotten away from, but for so many of us thought that for so many years. Our students don't, because they're on it. But helping all of us to recognize the impact that consistent attendance has, beginning at the elementary level, is really, really, really critical. And I think that can be very valuable to many of us as parents. So to Board Member Bernard's point of the vacation coding, I'm really pleased to see that moved away, because I think it can maybe help remind all of us, even though I have a kindergartner or a third grader, why it's so important for us to maybe not look at taking that Disney World trip to be gone for 10 days in the year, even though I only have elementary students. And I know many of us have been guilty of that. No names mentioned, but I know many of us have been guilty of that. I think that was, let's see, slide 23. I had a quick question. Let's see, where was it? Slide 23. You must have answered it. Okay. Yep.
That's it.
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and the work on, okay, go ahead.
I just want to clarify something. Sometimes when I'm around parents, they will say, my kid was absent so long, but I can re-register them. So I don't know if you've heard that, or if you can speak to that, because parents have this notion that if they're over 9 days or 10 days, they can no longer go to school, but then they just have to re-register them.
We do have a policy based on state guidance that after 15 days, a student is dropped from the system because they aren't seen as a student. And so we do have to drop them from our attendance rosters. And so if they are then back from, if they do come back on a 16th, 17th day after that, they do have to re-enroll. And so some, if they had to go somewhere for 20 days, for instance, they are dropped as a student and they do have to re-enroll.
Thank you for asking that, because that was on my list. But when they are dropped and have to re-enroll, there's no guarantee they'll get their class assignments back again. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, we try.
So it's hard. If somebody that has to do it more than I would like. We do our best, and it's the stars align where it wouldn't unfold. Odds are we do what we can to make it happen, but it might not be the same teacher. It might be a different period. If we know in advance, we'll like pull the grades, like, hey, you gave us a heads up, I'll give you that courtesy, but I can't promise that you're back in the exact same situation that you left in. And then you have the other question of academic loss and all that content, like what accountability is there? It is very gray. And we do what we can to support families, but it's never a guarantee that they come back how they left.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tough on not only the student, but the staff too. Suddenly you have a student that's out for that period and comes back, and you have to try and catch them up or whatever. Yeah, it's but I agree with many of the comments that my fellow board members made. In fact, I'm checking them off while they're saying it. The positivity language is, I think, a big improvement. And I do also agree that removing that vacation code is good, because that almost kind of sanctioned that, hey, we have a code, so I could take that. The other thing, and several people have pointed out, the data on learning loss is really critical. I can't tell you how many times I've heard conversations or seen comments on social media that kindergarten, first grade, it's okay. They're just playing, or, YOLO, you only live once, so take your kid to whatever. And those grades are actually incredibly critical to fundamental knowledge that builds into the other grades. And the more we can reinforce that, I think that's wonderful, because it's kind of shocking sometimes to read some of that stuff. I also truly appreciate our graph on slide 6, the improvement trend. That was important to see, because it's been something that's been of a concern to the whole board, and it's nice to see it continue to tick up. I think I asked this before, but the report cards for the schools used to have like a heavy 20% impact based on attendance or whatever, and I think the formula has changed a bit, but I think there's still some component of that, and yeah.
It is, in the new summative designations, it's an enhancer. It will not impact your summative designation in a negative manner like in past years, but the positive attendance could be an enhancer and move your designation up this year. So we want to strive for it, but it won't have a negative impact. In the past, it could pull your designation down.
Yeah, in the past, we actually have had schools that were reduced in their designation because of attendance at the school.
I laid into Tony Sanders about that.
Yeah.
It just said how different populations, that can impact them.
Yeah. So, but thank you very much. I know this was, I also like driving the consistency and simplicity of the coding. I think that's very key here for all of us to understand what's going on. One other question, it came up a couple times, the mental health days, just for my own clarity. When someone takes a mental health day, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, is there a follow-up with the family after they take the day off at all levels?
It's after 2.
After
they
2?
take 2.
Okay.
Practice that we've seen. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
A practice that we've seen at our level is if they reach that 9 days, they'll actually start taking their mental health days. A lot of families also don't know that they are allowed 5 as a part of the state to use those how they see fit. So the 2 is there because 1 could be that random day and on during the week, but then 2 in a row or 2 total could be, hey, maybe something's going on, we need to follow up.
How does mental health days get explained to the families? Because if somebody wants to take their kid apple picking because they need just a break and it's apple season or whatever, and they'll be happy out in the field. Could they call that a mental health day?
I mean, like Dr. Lee said, you really can, I mean, parents can choose to code however they like, but it's really meant to be that there's, you know, a mental health concern that's keeping them home that day. Not just like a, you know.
Well, yeah, we're not medical professionals, so we
Well, yeah.
want to encourage parents to make the best choice, and if apple picking serves as a good mental health day, then we are not going to be the judge of that.
Okay, so the bottom line is simplified coding, a better, better understanding by the families about how to track their days off, and how important it is for students to be in school at all ages. So thank you so much for all your work. Thank you.
President Donahue, I do have one quick question. Is there any guidance on the number of days on the collegiate end? What kind of guidance do we provide our students?
You clarify that?
College days.
Oh, sorry, the college visits.
Yes.
I interpreted that differently. I don't have an answer to that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you're not talking about the clearinghouse for athletic.
No,
You're talking
I'm talking about college visits.
Oh, college visits.
No, I
No.
don't think
No.
there is.
Okay.
It's just that once you've hit 10 days absent, you need documentation of where
Okay.
you've been, so you're gonna have to have something from the university.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next we will have a update from Dr. Nicole Howard on the 2026-2027 international field trips. It's getting darkened.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Price. So you have in front of you the list of proposed international field trips for next school year. Some exciting destinations across each of our 3 comprehensive high schools. Each of these trips is coordinated by a staff member, but they use an external vendor. So the complete cost of the trip is covered by the families. Are there any questions?
I did have one question that I asked. I'm not sure if you saw it. It was on for each of our schools, are those students from that particular school who are eligible to attend?
They are.
Okay.
Typically, the students belong to a specific program. They're traveling with the band or they're traveling with the French classes, but they are specific to that school.
There were a couple designations that said open to all students, and so that's why I was just asking that question.
Right, Neuqua Valley had a couple of those, and that means it's open to any student from Neuqua Valley. You don't have to belong to the course or the group that's planning the trip.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So, Mr. Rising, we did used to do this differently. The changes that the board is no longer approving these because they are not district-sponsored events. So we are sharing the information with you so that you are aware. It's not a proposal. It's not for your review and approval. It's a notification. These are essentially private field trips that are facilitated by some of our staff members, but these are not district-sponsored events.
So in the future, do we even have to have it on the agenda?
It's completely up to you.
Well, I think one of the benefits for having it presented here is because then it appears on our public website and things, so families can look at it and see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's valuable for our families to understand the opportunities that we are providing our students to ensure that they are well-rounded, that they have the opportunity to be well-rounded students, and so I think it's valuable.
Thank you. And it gives our younger students something to look forward to. They can look at those and say, when I get to high school, I want to go to France.
Right. Exactly. No, you're right, because
If
I think several of us had children who took one of these trips, and they do. I mean, like my son was in orchestra, and he knew every other year the orchestra would go somewhere, and he was like, I'm going to play this cello until I get to go to that, kind of. So I agree that it's of interest to our families. So
I would offer, if the board would like more information, I'd be happy to attend
Yes.
Report back.
I'm
If
happy
required to
leave
do
the
so.
board. If there's a free chaperone option, I'm in.
Yeah. All right, thank you so very much, yeah, thank you. All right, now we have our legislative advocacy and Board of Education update. Are there items for people to share?
Yeah, go ahead. You got something? You got something? Go ahead. All right, I'll share first then, since no one's talking. Just so the board knows, August 21st and 22nd, I will be traveling to Collinsville, Illinois for the Illinois Association of School Board Division Directors meeting. So all 21 division directors will be meeting in Collinsville on the 21st and 22nd after I have coffee that morning with Dr. Price. If you saw, I sent out to all the DuPage presidents a letter from the DuPage director, myself, that went out on July 23rd. Lori received it, but I think I sent it to all of you as well. So I'm going to start doing those every time the directors have a meeting so that all the presidents can share that with their board across DuPage. And then on August 31st, I have a meeting with the State Board of Education Professional Review Panel on evidence-based funding, and that should be an interesting meeting given what has recently happened at CPS. So I will give you all an update, especially Mr. Shipley, after that August 31st meeting. That's all I have.
Do you have something?
Just wanted to share that we have submitted for the Illinois Association of School Boards board recognition, which we have received and we submit every other year. And kudos to Board Member Fosdick. Board Member Katie and I had an opportunity to work on that, and it is quite extensive, and it is a labor of love. So thank you so much for the work that you did a couple years ago on that. And we look forward to receiving confirmation of that recognition. So keep you updated.
Yeah. Many thanks for completing that, because you're right, it is not like a simple task to fill that out. You have to show all of the things that you're doing around governance with your board, and it's extensive. It's probably 10 pages or something.
It's a pretty decent lift. It's
Yeah.
a surprise when you open the first time.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that work this year for
I
us.
forgot, I have one more thing.
Okay.
August 29th, mark your calendars or write it down right now. August 29th at the Carlisle will be DuPage Division School Board Superintendent's Dinner that night. The starts at 5:30 p.m. on October 22nd. The speaker looks like it will be Dr. Ann Williams.
You changed the dates.
What?
Changed the date.
October 29th. Do I have that?
You said August.
Oh, sorry, October 29th.
I'm like, yeah. Like, if
October,
he's writing it down,
yes.
what?
October 29th, sorry. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
October 29th, starting at 5:30 at the Carlisle, right by, Brook there. Speaker will be Dr. Ann Williams from Elgin U46. She's a CSBO, talking a little bit about funding, legislation, stuff like that. She's apparently does some stuff with ISB, so she will be the speaker at that meeting, October 29th.
All right. Okay, any other items? Yeah. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay.